Party people in the place to be. It's your boy, Paul T, the regular dude. And I call myself the regular dude because I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert. I don't have any fancy degrees. I'm just a regular dude who likes to talk about, I like to politic. I like to chop it up. I like to uh, have an exchange of ideas and various other things. But today the I want to talk about the five things that we do as men that push women away. And this is whether you're in a relationship, whether you're married, whether you're just talking to somebody and y'all trying to get to know each other, you're trying to get with her right now. Um, let's talk about a couple things that you don't want to do. And I learned all these things the hard way. So hopefully you can, you know, pick up something useful in what I'm going to talk about, and you can avoid some of those pitfalls. So I wrote some stuff down. Let me just jump into it here. Um, so number one, the first thing we do that can push women away, and as I go through this list, you'll find that even some of these things I'm talking about can just push people away in general. But we're focused on women here. So the first thing that we do, number one, this is in no particular order, but the first thing is not being yourself. Um, I feel like, especially these days, especially these days, I feel like as men, we are so desperate to be accepted by certain women. We so I'm not saying we're desperate, but we so desperately want to, get this girl. Sometimes we just want to get what's in those jeans. Sometimes we want that trophy, that dime piece trophy to just have on our arm. But we want this beautiful creature, and it's a very sort of possessive kind of uh, desire, I guess you would call it. And I feel like we'll we'll do almost anything to get that, including being whatever or whoever we have to be in order to sort of appease our uh, appease our the lady of our choice. And I feel like that's a big mistake. Let's see what I got here. Um, right. So you want to be when you're not being yourself, you're not being true to yourself. You're not being true to the young lady you're with or the young lady you're trying to get with. You're not being true to anybody. This helps no one in any way. Um, I think one thing we do is we try to be Mr. Perfect, you know, and I would say don't try to be Mr. Perfect. And by that I just mean, because of course, when you meet someone, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to make a good impression, but you don't want to try to be too squeaky clean. And some of the ways we do that is sometimes we try to be like very agreeable, and we may sort of keep our real opinions to ourselves, just so we don't, quote unquote, rock the boat. And I think that's a mistake, because by being very agreeable, to me, that's very, it's very, that's a sign of weakness. That's very obedient, and it's very compliant, and it's very docile. And you want to be a guy who has his own opinions, and you should be able to defend your own opinions and stand behind your own views and opinions on life. That's how you come off as an individual. You don't have to try to come off as a bonehead and trying to force your opinions on other people, but you do need to have a sense of identity. You do need to have your own fixed opinions. You do need to seem like you have some uh, you have some critical thought that you can apply to what is going on around you in this world, whether people agree with it or not. That's one of the things as men. You got to have the balls to kind of express yourself, no matter what. That's the only thing that matters. See what else I got here. Okay, let's go ahead. So the second thing we do that can push women away is when like when we make them feel that they're responsible for how we feel. And what I mean by that is like if a person realizes that, or if you make the impression, if you create the impression, or if you sort of send off this message, and you can send it off through your actions. If you're sending out this message that my self-worth, my happiness, the quality of my life depends upon her accept her acceptance and her approval, then you've given all power away in that case. That's a big no. Now, of course, we're human beings, so we're going to react. We're going to respond when people are not treating us right. The lady at the grocery store was rude to me or something like that. We're going to feel a certain type of way about that. And I think, you know, I'm not saying we should ignore that. You can acknowledge that appropriately. However, um, you don't want to make people feel like they have to walk on eggshells when they come around you, because then you're not giving them permission to be themselves. Um, you don't want to get into that whole dynamic where I'm not happy because she's doing this, or I'm not happy because he's doing that. No, nobody's doing anything if you're not happy with your situation and things that are going on in your life. You have to take action in changing those things, and that could mean getting rid of some people who may not be, giving you that due love and respect that you need. Um, let's see. Oh, one more thing about that before I move on, about making other people feel like they're responsible for how you feel. You give away your power when you do that. When how you feel is dependent upon how other people are acting, you never know what you're going to get, because you can't control other people's behavior. And one day they might be cool, the next day they might not. And so your emotions, emotionally, psychologically, you get sort of pulled in all different directions depending on the whimsical feelings of somebody else. And that can cause you to become extremely angry, because you always feel like this person, they're making me feel like this, they're doing this to me, they're doing that to me. If they're really doing something that bad, then maybe you need to just separate yourself from that. Don't put yourself in any environment that's hurting you. That's what they call a toxic environment or a toxic relationship. Um, so yeah, we can become very angry when we give our power to other people, and then they sort of use it against us, uh, maybe knowingly or unknowingly. So maintain your power, which is really maintaining responsibility. You saw the Spider-Man movie. With great power comes great responsibility, and with responsibility comes power. It's an inverse relationship. So having power is taking responsibility for your reality, your situation. Let's jump into the next one. All right, the third thing, and this is a show enough female repellent. The third thing that we do that can push women away is appearing to not have a life of your own. Um, if you don't if you don't have a life of your own, that's just not a good look. And that can include things like being too available, um, making your lady the center of your social life, or maybe even just the center of your life, um, being predictable. Let's say maybe she calls you every Friday evening after work on her way home. Sometimes, don't be waiting by the phone all the time. I'm not saying don't be there for your lady. I'm just saying you should be out enjoying yourself. When she calls, hey baby, I'm out, I'm at happy hour, I'm hanging out with some friends right now. Let me get back at you. Right? Because you have to you want to make it seem like you have a life, you have things going, you have friends, you have places to be, you know, you're a person, your time is valuable also. But you don't want to make it seem like anything. You want it to actually be. So you know, if you're, if life is kind of slow right now, I would say start working on that. Start working on being involved in the things that you're passionate about. Even if maybe you're passionate about traveling. You can't travel right now because of work. Maybe you don't have the money. You can write about it. You can you can study it. You can do all types of things. You can watch documentaries. You can you can go and meet. I mean, you can meet other people from other countries in your own country, and that's sort of a way of still experiencing that cultural aspect of travel. My point is you should be doing the things that you love, and your life should be filled with friends. It should be filled with love. It should be filled with um, it should be filled with some sort of activities. Doesn't mean you need to be, you know, running around like a chicken with your head cut off every day. But when your life is full, that's very attractive to other people. People want to be a part of that because you can't invite other people to a life that you don't even like. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Um, Number four, and I'm going to wrap this up. The fourth thing that we do that can push women away is we create a sexual dynamic too soon. When you meet a woman, sometimes the chemistry is there and the spark is kind of instant, and sometimes it's a little more gradual. So I always say, when you meet somebody, you meet a woman, you may bump into somebody on the street. You don't want to just jump out there, hey, let me get your number, let me call you, and just, you're just immediately saying, I want to date you, and you don't know her from a hole in the wall. Um, I think the much better approach is you want to develop some kind of rapport. You know what I mean? You want to acknowledge her as a person first, because when you create that sexual dynamic, there's usually some sort of objectification involved in that, and you're usually thinking with your little head, if you know what I'm saying. And women, they know, they can sense that. So, play it real cool. Build a friendly rapport. If you're a cool dude like that, you don't have a lot to worry about. You can always start putting a little flirtatious vibe, you know, which usually starts with humor. You can start putting that out there, see how she responds, and then proceed accordingly. Now, if she's not really feeling you like that, if she's not responding um, in an encouraging way, then you need to chill out. Don't keep pushing with that because that's just not a good look. Let's see what else do we have. So the other point about creating this sexual dynamic too soon, um, you might be pressed for time. You might meet someone. Uh, you might meet someone on your way out of a coffee shop, and maybe it's crowded. There's no time to talk. You're with friends. You gotta go. Um, I don't think you should just again, you've got to be able to read the situation. Depending on, depending on the vibe, it could be appropriate to get a quick phone number, um, if the exchange warrants that. Um, let's see. So, the thing about the sexual dynamic is flirtation is all about a sexual dynamic. And that's a good thing. But you have to be tactful with it, fellas. Don't come out there like a Neanderthal. Um, you wanna, slow and steady. I would say is the way. Um, I think you can even be a little more forward depending on the type of lady that you're talking to. But my whole point with that is, you don't want to just jump out the gate, sort of sexualizing her, objectifying her, and trying to hook up like that. That I don't think you're going to get too far with that. Not with a quality woman. So the last thing, the fifth thing we do that push women away is we we want them to fulfill certain needs that only we can fulfill. And what I mean by that is, being in a relationship, it we only get into relationships because we have that need for intimacy. We have that need for physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, that kind of contact. We want to have someone in our lives that we can spend time with, who enjoys our company. You know, there's a list of things that a healthy relationship can satisfy within us. But I think it's a problem when we think that the relationship is going to com- that is going when we think the relationship is going to like fulfill us in every single area. um, I think it's a mistake to ask your partner to be that quote unquote missing piece that you always hear about. Me personally, I don't believe in this idea of someone who completes completes you. I think there's only people who complement us. Um, and of course, I think there are people who can bring new perspectives, new ideas, and new dynamics into our lives, that can sort of uh, bring new depth and new dimension to our lives. But, if you're dealing with maybe past hurts, past traumas, if you're dealing with complexes or hangups that you've had for the longest time, you can't go into a relationship expecting that relationship to make everything okay. That's the inner work that you have to do on your own. Um, and I also think that it's a tremendous amount of pressure to be to put on your partner, to ask them for that constant reassurance, for that constant nurturing maybe you didn't get when you were a child, to be the missing mother, to be the missing father, to be your source of self-esteem or whatever it is that you may be missing. So fellas, please take heed, take what you can, whatever you can use. And I learned all these things the hard way. So I hope it will help you again avoid some of those pitfalls. It's your boy, Paul T, the regular dude. And I say I'm a regular dude because I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert. I don't have any fancy degrees. I'm just a dude that likes to just talk about various things. A regular dude. Peace.